Hello everyone, Derek with Tatango.com. I'm here with TCPA attorney Ernesto Mendieta, and we're answering questions from the interwebs about text messaging and TCPA compliance. Luckily, we have a TCPA attorney here, and I know a few things about text messaging. So, one of the questions we get all the time is a short code. If you're not familiar, it's 5 to 6 digits. It's usually what brands will text message you on. There are some instances where you have to move your subscribers. Let's say you have a million phone numbers and you want to move those phone numbers from one short code to another. And maybe that's you're switching SMS providers. There's a host of reasons. So one day you're sending messages on a certain phone number. The next day you want to send messages to those same phone numbers on a different 5-digit phone number. We get the question a lot, well, is that TCPA compliant, or what do I need to do to remain TCPA compliant when I'm switching essentially the phone number I'm texting my customers on?
That's a good way to see it. I'm changing the telephone number I'm calling from, right?
Yep.
So first I'm gonna give you the general answer and then we can get to the details. But the general answer would be the TCPA, what it cares about is the call party gave you consent to be contacted for a telemarketing call or an informational call, right? How was that consent given and what was the agreement? Like what was the scope of the agreement? So we're saying if a certain consumer said like, yes, they sign a contract, they sign terms and conditions that said you can contact me anytime relating to this product or offers about this product, then it's an open agreement, right? You can contact him, email, you can contact him in telephone, SMS. Obviously, for SMS campaigns, you become a little narrower in your terms and conditions. So you say like, well, you're gonna receive one text message that you're gonna opt in, and then I'm gonna send you back one text message a week. Yeah. Okay. So that was the agreement, and you have to respect that. Regarding shortcodes, the first question that you would have to do to see if you remain compliant by changing it is what was the agreement and how was the consent granted. If the consent that was granted said you can contact me at my phone number with one SMS a week, then you can do it with any phone because there was no limitation to what shortcode was going to contact you, right? So you are compliant, you can change your shortcode every time, every SMS.
It can come from a different number.
Yeah.
It could even come from 1-800 number. It could come from, a regular phone number. Yeah. Now, the carriers obviously have issues with that, but I guess it's to the point, the relationship and the consent that the consumer is given is to the business to be able to message them.
Correct.
And hopefully in the terms and conditions with that kind of consent, it's not so specific that you're saying, I'm only going to message you on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That'll be the only number I'm messaging you on. So do you recommend before you move a short code or before you move your subscribers to a new short code, always have like a TCPA attorney review the terms and conditions, the opt-in process to make sure you didn't put in something that maybe restricts you from moving? Yeah,
it's important. If you already have this consent granted with certain limitations, it's important that before you do anything that's going to affect that consent, you have someone review and tell you, no, it's okay. Like you didn't limit yourself, you didn't restrict yourself from migrating into another shortcode.
But there's no, and I hear this all the time, there's no rule in the TCPA that says you can't switch shortcodes on people.
There's no rule in it.
They don't even mention shortcodes, right?
They do not.
It's very generic. It's messaging, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just say it's important, or it clarifies a lot of things when we're talking just about TCPA.
Yes.
If we consider shortcode to be a telephone number.
Yeah.
For the TCPA specifically, there's no difference in how it treats those two things.
That's really more kind of on the software layer side. We care about shortcodes and what you're messaging on. From a TCPA standpoint, as long as the message is getting to the phone, it really doesn't matter, whether it's long code or, 1-800 number or short code, or if you're switching the short code. Now, it's annoying from a consumer standpoint. So I think when you as a brand are looking to move your subscribers, I wouldn't recommend switching short codes on them every day because they're going to go, who's this new short code? And I think there are some ways to alert your customers and tell them kind of what's happening so you can reduce churn. But from a TCPA standpoint, there's no mention of it. It really comes down to what the customer agreed to when they opted in.
Correct, yeah. Okay. Because we can get to talk to best practices and you want to notify them that now you're going to contact them through this number. Yeah, it may
but
be
those
a
are
best
practice.
Yeah, but
and best practice is not law.
Correct.
Okay.
TCPA is there's no issue because the relationship is between the company and the consumer. What was the consent, right? If the consent was you can contact me through any telephone number, then you can migrate shortcodes and there would be no issue with the TCPA.
So the TCPA attorney, they review your opt-in process and the terms and conditions. They don't see any glaring kind of reason why you couldn't move your phone numbers to another, short code or long code or whatever you want to move it to. There is something though, that you need to kind of prepare and keep. What is that?
Yeah, it's important. You were contacting him, right? Even if you migrate shortcodes, it doesn't delete all the history you have behind them of getting consent and sending them messages. So what you do need to do to remain compliant with the TCPA when you migrate shortcodes is respect and continue to comply with that agreement you had before. So if you got the consent by that person using the other shortcode, meaning you sent him an SMS with an opt-in, and he clicked on it, he said yes, he did whatever he needed to do, then it's important to do some good record keeping. You have to say, this person consented to me contacting him with this shortcode. Even if now in the future, from now on, it's going to be a different shortcode, it's important for you to keep it, to have those records complete, because if in the future there's a lawsuit against you, they're going to ask you, was there consent, was not there consent? You're going to say, there was consent on this phone number or this shortcode, and you also have the migration. And why is it, if someone asks, why is it a different number than these messages? You're able to say, well, let me go to my files, let me go to my records, here it is. Because I migrated the shortcode, but I had the consent, right?
Yeah.
And on the other side, it's also important that to respect any opt-outs that you receive in the prior shortcode. If you were contacting someone and that person opted out, then you cannot contact him again.
Yeah.
If you migrate shortcodes, you cannot just go back to all the consents you have and all the opt-ins and then start texting everybody again.
So it's not like a do-over, back in middle school or whatever, where, oh, I'm switching phone numbers, so now it's a do-over. All those people that opted out on the old phone number, they're back in, or, hey, new phone number, so I can do different things now. Like now I can message from another business on that phone number. It really, you have to maintain consistency.
Yeah, and it goes to the same point that we were making at the beginning. The important thing is the relationship between the company and the consumer. So it doesn't matter what the shortcode is. If they opted out, they opted out. Like, don't go again.
So, and one thing I've seen is a lot of brands, when they're moving to a new shortcode, they will just export from the old provider a list of phone numbers and maybe when they opted in, and what their carrier is. I like that. That's nice. But also what I would recommend, and it's a big file usually, sometimes you have to request it, is to get the full messaging history for the entire length of the messaging campaign. This means every single message in and out on the system. Because when a plaintiff or somebody, a consumer, complains, it's not good enough to just look at a phone number and say, well, you opted in on this date and your carrier is AT&T, that's all we know about you. It has to be, well, you texted in this, then we sent you this, then you opted in, you've received these 7 messages, and then you opted out. It has to be the full record, which is a lot. If you have 1 million subscribers and you're sending one a day, that's a lot of records, but you have to keep that information.
Yes, you have to, because that's what's going to prevent you, or is going to give you a good defense in case you get sued. If you end up in court and there's a question of when did they consent, when did they opt out, the only thing that's going to save you, well, not the only thing, but the main thing that could save you, and it's a really great defense strategy, is to have all those messages to show
data.
Yeah,
exactly. And then also, you made a good point, the opt-out. If you move a shortcode, or if you move your subscribers from one shortcode to another, you have to also continue to maintain and monitor the old shortcode, because if someone replies stop to the old shortcode, again, they're applying stop to your brand, not to that specific phone number from your brand. So we also look, again, at Tatango, we look at it as like a long strategy where you're moving the subscriber, but you also have to maintain, opt-outs and record them and then apply them to the new shortcode. So it's not as easy as just kind of, hey, new do-over, move over the subscribers. It has to be a multi-month plan to move your short code.
Yeah.
And a lot of data and where you store that data, you know, because you want to make sure it's safe. It's not just with your marketing person. You want to send it to your legal team. You want to make sure that it remains for a certain amount of time. So it's definitely something I think you have to coordinate with not only your brand, the SMS provider, the old SMS provider, and then also TCPA Council.
Yeah.
So it's not as easy as just flip the switch.
Yeah, and that's what TCPA Council is gonna should get involved and help you with the process, because they'll say, well, maybe to avoid dealing with that and dealing with all the opt-outs before, let's give a notice to all our clients, right? Let's give them a specific notice that starting from today, we don't have that, even if it's not necessary, but you're letting them know. So tomorrow they cannot go to court and say like, well, on this date, I opted out to the phone that I had been receiving messages.
So you're saying almost like, you know, even though it's not required by the TCPA, you can give notice to your existing subscribers telling them that, you know, hey, we are not using this phone number. Please don't text message this phone number for stop request. Here's the new phone number. And again, recording all that data. So if there is an issue, you can go to court and say, well, we messaged them on this date, this message, and then we message them from the new code. So it's kind of marrying best practices with law, with kind of common sense. And then also you have to keep up with kind of the brand, where it can't just sound like a robot is moving your phone number. I've seen some really good examples where people are like, you know, hey, we just got a new phone number, you know, here it is, and, you know, here's 20% off for remaining a subscriber. You know, so I think you got to marry kind of what the attorneys want, what the brand marketing wants, what makes sense, you know, from a consumer, because again, they're getting a message from, you know, your brand that now is on a brand new phone number. People might even think it's spam.
Yeah.
So there's a ton of things to go into when moving your subscribers to a new short code.
Yeah, correct.
Perfect. Okay, sounds good. Again, my name is Derek Johnson with Tatango.com, and I'm talking to TCPA attorney Ernesto Mendieta, and we're answering questions about TCPA compliance for text message marketing that are coming from the interwebs.